Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting back into our talks of the Immortal Hulk, to where at this point in issue 25, the double-sized issue, we take a peek into the 9th version of the cosmos, where we bask into a reality that is essentially what the Hulk has always wanted since day one. And in addition to that, it appears that someone else has made their way over here from the previous universe, and this person may become the Watcher of the 9th cosmos. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch us spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so in our recent talks about the Immortal Hulk, we had got a glimpse into the future to where at the end of time we seen the Hulk literally consume the essence of the universe and pretty much outliving everything that we've seen in Marvel Legacy, which gave us this dark and horrifying ending, which had led us to the notion that not only the One Below All had taken over the body of Bruce Banner, but he had also crossed over into the 9th cosmos. And so now, as far as the universe being reborn, that's something we've seen plenty of times in comics, but there's just something about this one here that just feels super different. And I guess because most of the time that we see it, it's following some type of cataclysmic event, like the 8th Cosmos for example, which was created after the events of Secret Wars, when Reed Richards fixed everything back to normal. But in this case, with what we're given from Al Ewing, this is anything but normal. Because when we look into how it begins, and even though at this point we're not sure how long it's been, but it still very much has the look and feel of a relatively young universe. But when we see how it begins, we have these two creatures that appear to represent your male and female, with the blue one whose name is like Par%1, I'm gonna just call him Par, and then like your reddish pink one, which is called Fairies, to whom the two we just kind of see existing here in this quote maimed / broken universe. And I gotta say, like, the two kind of remind me of like Captain Universe and your M-Cron Crystal, and it's not really a whole lot going off of that aside from the colors, the shapes, and the description that these two have shared some sort of history. But because they're addressed with neither his or hers but HIR, which is gender neutral, it really just leaves it open for these two to be anybody. And so now, as far as the location, which is in this new universe, to which at this time is just comprised of broken worlds, their home, if you will, is within these glittering sunstones, which pretty much just look like these long gold crystals docked onto a berthed ship, and that's berth BERTH. But when we see the two of them here, we also see that they have a unique form of communication, which is much like a bonding process, which is something that was introduced to them by someone or something named D%NEL, because in the 9th cosmos, the percent sign is just a vowel now. And you know what? I think that's why the Hulk is just so angry here. But we'll get to that. And so now this D character or entity or what have you, who had made it possible for communication, and who was also described as a space where this communication would take place, but it's also stated that this character or this entity was also broken by the Breaker Apart, to whom we know to be the One Below All. And so what these two have been doing between Fairies and Par is pretty much searching all of space just to see if anything's left among the wreckage, to where at this point all they can find is broken worlds. And as far as they can search, they find no planets, no stars, really just everything that's broken, and really just the remnants of things that once were. And so during this communication, Fairies introduces Par to this egg which holds the next form of communication, which is known as your tiding flies, which are able to travel across space and time, but more basically they can travel long distances and then arrive back at the same time that they left. And initially Par sees this as an abomination, which almost feels like a hint towards something later, but with Par seeing this as an abomination, Fairies then makes the correction that no, this was created as a precaution, a warning, so that this tiding fly could gather what information that need be and travel as far and as long as it would need to, and then make its way back with plenty of time for warning, which is something that once again Par sees as an abomination, mainly for the reason, and I want to say he because he blue, but Par mainly makes the argument that these tiding flies can send information faster than thought, and if words are sent quicker than thought, or even quicker than knowledge, then this could wipe time away or even break it, which is an interesting concept with gathering so much information that you don't move, because you're spending all of your time processing the information rather than moving forward in any given direction. But in a universe like this one, it's much better to be safe than sorry. But at this point where Par and Fairies have made their way to the last habitable planet, which is named like 0% sign Los, because once again that percent sign is used like a vowel out here. But when they arrive here, this planet is like plentiful with the crystal superstructures which pulse in a different harmony with these colors that have different meanings. But as they arrive here, they're met with this green light, of which has been known to many as the Breaker of Worlds. And when we get a closer look, it's pretty much a celestial Hulk who is literally literally larger than life out here. And he's just swimming through these moons like it's beach balls, basketballs, and wiffle balls, man. And I mainly go with the celestial description, mainly because that's the closest like that his garb reminds me of. Like it's very celestial-like, and with a bit of Galactus in there too, which is what I would more so expect, because in this ninth cosmos, it's almost like you would imagine, like with the Hulk entering here, that he would more or less serve the same purpose as Galactus, with either consuming or destroying worlds in order to keep balance, which is partially true because he's been getting worlds out of here left and right, but in this case nowhere near for the purpose of balance, but rather for the purpose of destruction, so that the Hulk is completely alone, with no other life thriving, no other sun shining, just the Hulk in the whole universe. That's it. And when he gets there and just punches this planet, which at one point had 9 billion lives on it, but when he arrives, he punches this planet and it's a wrap. And so when this happens, at this point, Par 1, who's like the only like sole survivor, when Par sees this, it has the curiosity that it has to know just why. And with Par needing to find this out, it then turns to one of your tiding flies to gather information as Par goes to investigate, because at this point, the tiding fly is no longer seen as an abomination, with there being absolutely no life left to be an abomination too. So really at this point, with there being a dire need to collect information and hopefully send it back to a point in time where something could change this, then that's the Hail Mary plan, more or less. But along with this, Par wants answers, because one, Par has never seen the Breaker of Worlds, who in this time is also referred to as the Breaker apart. But even with pulling in closer, and with doing so dispatching the tiding fly in order to communicate so that Par could get the answer to this question why, like this face and even likeliness of the Hulk, it's completely alien to Par or anything he's ever seen, or it's ever seen. And mainly because the history of creatures within this cosmos, they've all had their super weird shapes, but nothing even remotely in the likeliness of what we would signify as like a humanoid form. And upon entering where there's said to be no sign of a soul, but instead just staring into this abyss, which is comprised of a number of faces that appear to be human-like, which for Par wouldn't really mean anything, but for us as the reader, this means everything, because though Par doesn't recognize these faces to be of any human origin, it's likely our best guess is that these are people who have been consumed or absorbed from the previous universe collectively, along with any life here that has existed as well. And when Par asks the question why, there's a response then comes back from the one below all, who replies that he's the one who uses this mouth to howl, he uses these hands to break, and that he's devoured the cells from the time long past, who are pretty much all the faces that we had seen on the way down. And so now venturing through here, and like with the one below all expressing like his desires and the hatred, which ultimately all lead to the desire to be alone, it all really just points back to like your classic Incredible Hulk, to whom from the very beginning, like even going back to like your 1960s, and your entire reasoning to why the Hulk was always mad, it very much stemmed from the Hulk just wanting to be left alone. And of course through the years the transformations have their different triggers, but initially your Savage Hulk, he always had the deepest desire to just be left alone. But even while this is happening, the Hulk grows to an even larger size, and he just crushes the star in his own two hands, which is just insane, like showing that there's no limit to how big this Hulk can get. But even throughout this chaos, the tiding fly makes it out, sending this information back to an earlier date, to where when we witness where it's arrived, I felt like a lot of W's just there. But when we see it again and it's being dissected, and the Sunstone is being extracted from it, we then see a creature what appears to be Par percent 1, to when in this point in time, whenever the heck this is, the leader has now discovered this tiding fly, and now all the information which remains and all the information is collected is at his disposal. And so now my reasoning for my mention of the possibility of the leader being like the Watcher in the ninth cosmos, that stems from the concept of the tiding fly, because the tiding fly, which can go across time and space, it can't go back in time further back than the point of its origin, which in this case is no further back than when they were created by fairies. So with that said, one of two things is going on here, or perhaps even one of three, because either one, the tiding fly went back to the time it was supposed to and the leader got it, two, it was defective, went off course and the leader found it, or perhaps even three, the leader found a way to make it into the ninth universe, which is how he got his hands on this thing. But even in addition to that, dare I mention a fourth? Because when this Par creature had mentioned that these tiding flies were an abomination because they could mess up time, it may even be possible that the Hulk destroying that sun created a black hole, which sent this tiding fly through time, which is how the leader then discovered this tiding fly. And if that's the case, then who knows at what point in time the leader actually got his hands on this. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and also drop a number, like which one out of the 4, like which one do you feel like is the most likely to happen? Me personally, I'm kind of leaning on 4 because I don't know, I just came up with it just now, and for whatever reason, to me, it just kind of feels like the most logical possibility at this point. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. All right, later.